Is this Tupac's best album of all time? 30 years ago, Tupac Shakur was at a crossroads, facing a prison sentence and feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. And what he gave us was his most raw and introspective masterpiece, Me Against the World. Today we're cracking open the 30th anniversary edition of Me Against the World to see if this vinyl pressing does justice to a goddamn legend. Welcome to Unboxed. If you like music-related content, getting a bit more in-depth with music-related subject matter, then you're going to want to subscribe, hit that little bell for notifications. Look, I do this just for the shits and gigs of it, but I do appreciate any feedback, and I hope you're taking away something from this content. Me Against the World. Don't you ever just kind of feel that way? You know, it's like that one time I celebrated my 25th birthday at Disney World, and I was in line for the roller coaster, and this Make-A-Wish kid comes up. He gets to go onto the roller coaster before me, may have caused a little scene, and they kick me out of the park. Sometimes you just feel like it's me against the world, right? Seriously though, where do I even begin here? Me Against the World isn't Tupac's biggest selling album, nor is it his biggest charting album, but that's typically the way it goes for critically acclaimed albums. Because, as far as what the critics say, they consistently put Me Against the World at the top. But what the hell do you care about what the critics say? You care about what Rob says. And unfortunately in this case, Rob and the critics are gonna agree. Because in my opinion, Me Against the World is Tupac's best work and his most honest. So this is Tupac pre-Death Row Records. And I think it's a preview of what Tupac could have become had he not signed to Death Row and had he not died, of course. But we're not gonna get into that. So going back to 1993, Pac's star is shining bright as he's recording this album. He'd released the Thug Life project, the Above the Rim movie was huge, and this is following Poetic Justice, Juice, his cameos on TV shows. Let me remind you, Tupac was only 22 to 23 while recording this album, and although his star was rising, so were his legal battles and things in his personal life. Served 15 days for assaulting director Alan Hughes, and was later dismissed on charges regarding a shootout with off-duty police officers in Atlanta. As a result, a lot of this album has themes of morality, depression, and suicidal thoughts. And by the time he'd wrapped recording this album, he had gotten shot 5 times at the infamous Quad Studios shooting on November 30th, 1994.
In New York City.
Which he survived, of course. Following that, he went to the hospital, checked himself out of the hospital despite doctors' recommendations, and then he went to court the very next day, bandaged up in a wheelchair in this infamous scene. So, as you can imagine, life was pretty heavy for Pac at this time. Easy Mo Bee, who did production work on Me Against the World, said in an interview, Pac would be in court all day during the day, dealing with attorneys and lawyers, and then, of course, like clockwork, every day, 6 p.m., he'd show up at the studio to record and do work for the album. But most importantly, Pac was and is a symbol of activism and change that left us some incredible music. Me Against the World isn't anything new for Pac fans, of course, as far as his message goes. But to me, it seems there's more personal stuff on this album.
Why you doing this, man? Why you gotta jibber-jabber all the time?
What do you say we get out the machete and we cut this pig open? An extremely interesting fact about this album is that Pac was incarcerated since February of 1995, so any promotion regarding this music, as far as appearing on talk shows, radio shows, wasn't doable. Yet, despite that, this album debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and held the top spot for 4 consecutive weeks. And because of that fact, Tupac was the first artist to have a number 1 album while serving a prison sentence. And on December 6, 1995, the album was certified double platinum, baby. So here we are, 30 plus years later. This special 30-year anniversary edition, it's the Midnight Mist color vinyl with refreshed packaging. As you can see, this is not the original album artwork. The colorway itself was chosen to kind of reflect the album's dark, moody, personal subject matter, providing a new reflective dimension to the classic. Track listing on the back, different picture as well. As far as tracks go on this 30th anniversary edition, no unreleased, no remixes, still the original track listing. But the album itself did have a few different various track listings during the recording process. There was 2 songs that didn't make the album, one being Pain, which turned up on the Above the Rim soundtrack, and another one was called Hard on a Playa, which featured Snoop Dogg, produced by Daz Dillinger, and renamed as a song called Life's So Hard. That one turned up on the gang-related soundtrack, which was released by Death Row Records. But let's take a look here. What's in the box? We got a cool picture of Pac there. That one could be nicely framed to honor one of the greatest rappers of all time, in my opinion. This album, of course, has production by Easy Mo Bee that I mentioned, Soul Shock, D. Felizno, Shock G of Digital Underground, Johnny J, who later did some work on All Eyes on Me. Here's vinyl number 1. Let's take a look at that Midnight Mist. Ooh! Kind of reminds me of like a bowling ball. Good quality, might be close to 180 gram, if not, it's close. Again, despite this dark subject matter, this is still my favorite Tupac album. And because of that, it was really hard for me to narrow down songs to recommend for someone who's never heard this album before, or even heard Tupac, because I think this would be a great introduction to Tupac. And I understand All Eyes on Me is great, like entry level, and not to take away from that album, it is incredible. But in terms of this album, some of my recommendations: If I Die Tonight, great Easy Mo Bee produced track. The lyricism on this track is next level with Pac's delivery, his cadence, the alliteration with the letter P. It just showcases how incredible of an artist he was. And again, Easy Mo Bee's production completely on point on that track. And then of course, Dear Mama. You know, this song, I think when people first heard it, it moved them. As it should. It's a beautiful song. The song itself is 2 times platinum on its own. Of course, the song's a dedication to his mother, Afeni Shakur, but I love that there's a song like this in the world. Because above everything, of course, you should always love your mom, but not like how I love your mom. That's different. Next track, Old School. It's a great track, just a nod to old school rap, and kind of like what life was like for Pac growing up. He shouts out a lot of places, a lot of activities as a kid, and it's a brighter, funner song to kind of contrast the rest of the album. Kind of takes your mind off of Pac's troubles. And then the final one I would highly recommend off this album is Fuck the World. Despite the title, it's a Shock G of Digital Underground produced track. If you were to throw this track on a Digital Underground album, it would fit perfectly. It's P-Funk inspired, great track, but Pac really paints a picture of where he was in life and what he was dealing with, quite literally, in this song. Wider picture of this album, I would give it 4.5 machetes. To me, it's a no-skip album besides the intro, which is kind of a collection of news clippings. In conclusion, this album to me is Pac's best work. Strictly from a hip-hop head perspective, this is essential listening and should be in every vinyl collector's collection. But listen, all of his albums, his whole discography when he was alive up to Machiavelli is mandatory listening. You just get a wide range picture of what a complicated person Tupac was. Absolutely gone way too young. But he gave us incredible music to remember him by. But ultimately, if you want some deeper and more insightful Pac, start with Me Against the World. This Midnight Mist edition, available on UMG's website. Link is in the description. Thanks for checking out the video. Please like, subscribe, leave me a comment. Just, don't be a jerk. Let me know though, favorite Tupac albums, Tupac songs, Tupac movies. And I will see you in the next video.